So this is part 3 of making a French pattern wrought iron trade axe. In this episode we're going to do the profiling, heat treating and making a handle for the axe. So just a reminder, this is the axe at the end of last video, all forged out. It's a bit rough around the edges. So what we're going to do now is we're going to grab some files and rasps and we are going to do the profile of it. So basically we're going to file some straight lines where there need to be straight lines and some curved lines where there need to be curved lines. I've lubricated my files with chalk in order to stop the teeth from clogging up. And I will just knock off the sharp corners as well on the edges. Now I do have seen this on historical examples, and I figured I'd transfer it to this one. So at this stage I'll also start the edge bevels. I will leave the edge about a mil thick to save getting any distortion during the heat treating process. So if the steel starts getting too hot to hold, cool it off. That'll save getting any embrittlement in there. So with all the profiling done, I will just go over with a needle file just to scrape out any aggressive teeth marks. So for this kind of axe, teeth marks don't bother me too much because it is a historic item. So at this stage we're ready for heat treating, so I will place the axe head on the fire and just let it come up to critical at its own speed, and I will hold it at critical for about 20 minutes, and that will allow the steel to go through all the transformations it needs to. So once it's been there for 20 minutes, I will literally just pull it out and put it to one side to air cool on its own. So you can hang it from a hook if you want. I just put it to one side. So whilst the normalizations are going through, I will start working on the handle. So I'll start with quite a large piece, and I will take most of the material off with an axe. And I've actually burnt the shape of the eye onto the end of the stave. So to start off I will chop down one end of the stave to those dimensions, and then the other end of the stave, which needs to be narrower, and you'll see why in a minute, I will also cut that down to size, and then with both of these round sections done I will get a nice taper going in the middle, linking one to the other. So when that's all roughed out, I will use my scrape rasp and just smooth that, get some nice straight lines, get rid of any thick bits, any lumps and bumps. Just generally make it look smart. So every now and then I'll just heat up the eye, and whilst the material is quite thick I'll do this at a red heat, and I will just put a burn mark to mark the dimensions of the eye. That'll give me something to work to. So once I start getting close I will do this at a dark heat, and towards the end of shaping the handle I am literally just singeing the wood ever so slightly to mark the high spots. Could equally do it by putting some chalk or something inside the eye, but I find doing it this way is quite accurate, a lot easier to see as well. So with those scorch marks in place I'll just knock off the high spots, and that will allow me to basically fit the stave to match the eye. So with all that done I will just hit it with a rasp and knock off any tooth marks from the bigger rasp and go from there. So with 3 normalization cycles completed, I will lay the axe head back on the fire, keep it there for 20 minutes at critical temperature. During this time I will preheat the quench oil with a hot bar, and I'll get that up to about 70 centigrade, just reduces the viscosity. At the same time I have a temper bath heating up, and I heat that up to around 220 degrees centigrade, which I think is about 450 Fahrenheit. So I have that prepared for when the head's been hardened. So when it's been cooking for 20 minutes, quench it in the oil, move it up and down, and then when it's cooled down, test it with the file, test the hardness. As you can see, that has gone in perfectly, so that is lovely and hard. I have to be careful not to drop it at this stage, otherwise it could take a chip out of it. And then put it in the temper bath. And I will hold it in the temper bath for about 2 hours, and that will take it down to remove enough of the hardness to make a usable tool. So it comes out of the heat treating process a bit khaki because of the oil. So I'll just hit it with a scurfing mop at this stage, get any of the scale off, get any thick clunky oil residue off, and test fit it to the handle. So the handle's been left a little over long. So what I will do at this stage is I will take my vernier calipers and I will just score a little line 10mm from the edge, which is about 1/2 inch, and using that line I will just chop off the excess material. And doing it this way just allows me to get the end of the handle square to the eye. So once that's sawn off, just hit it with the rasp again, just to tart it up a bit, put a nice chamfer around the end, and then it's on to sticking some linseed oil on there. So by the time this is finished, this will have 4 or 5 coats of linseed oil. That'll protect the wood from the elements, possibly protect it from dings as well once it's hardened a bit. Not massive dings, obviously, don't go hitting any rocks with the handle, but if you drop it, it won't leave too much of a mark. And at this stage I will just take the axe head and stick a proper working edge on it. So the reason I've got a tapered eye and a tapered handle is so that you can put the handle on and off. So if you're backpacking and you want to carry this axe, or you have luggage, small amounts of luggage and everything, you can just dismantle the axe and make it a bit easier to transport, because they are quite an awkward shape. So you can assemble it when you need it, or pack it down when you don't need it. So I wasn't sure how well this axe would handle once it was finished, but as you can see, it handles quite nicely. You can trim with it, chop sticks with it, you can burst quite heavy pieces of oak apart with it. It is quite a good axe. The reason I had my reservations was because it doesn't actually have a pole. It's the blade is quite heavy, which feels a bit funny to start with, but it is quite comfortable to use. I quite enjoyed using it. So feast your eyes on these images of the completed axe. So I think it is one of my favourites which I've made. So it was made out of quite coarse grain wrought iron, and you can see that in the blade itself. I've left the blade looking quite rustic because it's in the same style as the handle, and I just think a slightly coarse blade and a slightly coarse handle work well together. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Facebook, check out my shop on Etsy. If you enjoyed these videos, please consider donating on Patreon to support their production. Here's a list of this week's Patreon donors. Thanks a lot, guys. I couldn't do it without you. So thanks everybody, and I'll see you on the next one.